Hello and welcome to this Fireside chat focusing on the Swedish startup scene. My name is Regina Summer and I'm the Chief Strategy Officer for International Collaboration at Vinnova, the Swedish Innovation Agency. I'm here in the studio in Stockholm with Stina Lantz, the Vice President for Swedish Incubators and Science Parks. Welcome, Stina.
Thank you very much, Regina. Happy to be here.
Stina, you are a key person in the Swedish innovation system, a very inspiring leader and a true doer. You get things done. And I'm so impressed by all work you do. Please tell us about your background.
First of all, thank you for all those kind words. And I really must say that this is a team effort. I'm not doing everything by myself. I have a great team from all around Sweden, actually. And we're doing it together. But on a personal note, my background is that I grew up in an entrepreneurial family, and even my grandma was an entrepreneur. And so when I left the university, there wasn't really a choice. I started, of course, my first company. And this was before we used to call it a startup. So it was almost soon 20 years ago, actually. And that company was within streaming media online. So it was a quite new technology. By that time, you know, that was before Facebook, it was before iPhone and everything. So, and after that, I couldn't really stop. So I've been in startups or scale-ups, to be honest, tech scale-ups, ever since. And often joining the company when there's 5, 10 people, and then leaving when we are around 50. So scaling is really one of the things that I do enjoy the most.
And what made you start working with helping other startups?
That's a quite easy question, actually. I strongly believe that the startups are the bearers of the keys to our future. They have the new technologies that we need to solve today's large and big challenges. So to be able to devote my time to support many of them with their first customers and so on, that was really an easy choice for me.
And Sweden is not only ranked as one of the top innovation countries in the world, we are also, and actually Stockholm is, as a region, is also the second most unicorn producing region in the world per capita. How come?
I think there are many answers to that question, of course, but one thing is definitely we have both the historical and the cultural perspectives. And when it comes to the historical perspectives, we are, I mean, our role models are Alfa Laval, IKEA, H&M, and so on. So we're used to, or for us, it comes natural that we are able to start multinational companies. And I think we're learning that already, you know, by young age. And then nowadays equal spells like Klarna, Spotify, Truecaller and so, and that's of course enhancing this dream for many of us on the startup scene. We have a new generation now of clean tech startups that are really interesting, and they're not only from Stockholm. Einride, for example, we have Northvolt, we have Midsummer, for example, from Stockholm. But and that's very interesting to see the new movement of deep tech startups with really disruptive technologies now entering and starting to get really large, entering the market. But I think one reason also is, of course, it's easy to dare to become an entrepreneur in Sweden. We have a fantastic social safety net. So you can try, and you can fail, and then you can try again without the risk of losing everything. And that's really important. So we can be creative because we feel safe. And another aspect is, of course, the fantastic support system we have. All the way from the universities that are supporting young startups to starting the first startups, all the way to the incubators and then the science parks, and then, of course, the funding institutes like Vinnova and the Swedish energy authorities that makes a tremendous difference for the startups.
And Silicon Valley is ranked the top one unicorn-producing region in the world. What would you say are the similarities and, of course, the differences between the Stockholm region and Silicon Valley region?
I would say, of course, we have been looking at Silicon Valley for ages, benchmarking, learning from them and so on. And one of the similarities is definitely the paid-forward culture. All our great founders, they come back to the new startups, they engage in boards, they even invest, they give support. So that's really a major important similarity, I would say. And then we, of course, have the diversity. In the Swedish startup scene, you don't speak Swedish because you have so many nationalities working in the startup scene. And I think that is also, diversity is the base for creativity. So that's also a very important similarity. Then I would say a difference instead is that in Silicon Valley, everyone is supporting the startups, and we need to do that better. Sometimes I can feel that we still have the startup community and the startup world is one, and then we have the grown-up companies, and they are another. And this is not the way we perceive it when we are in Silicon Valley. Then everyone is really supporting, and we need to take more in Sweden. We need to learn even more from that, and feel like we are the family that the startups need. If they are the children, we all need to come together and support them all the way, because they will become the next large companies.
Yep. And you're the vice president of the Swedish Incubators and Science Parks. What do you do?
SISP, Swedish Incubators and Science Parks, is a member association. We are 61 members from north of Sweden all the way down to the south. And we are both science parks and incubators. And I would say what we do have in common, even if it's a little bit of different organizations, is that we are all devoted to the utilization of research and innovation. And we are operating in the later TRL scales, so to say. And when we look at the science parks, you could describe them as the hearts of the regional innovation ecosystems. So they are often very close to the universities, so they are hotspot for talent and recruitment for any companies. And they run large innovation programs, some even on a national level. For example, AI Sweden, that is one of the other organizers of Sweden Innovation Days, is led by Lindholmen Science Park in Gothenburg. And then we have the incubators on the other hand. They are market complementary. So they support startups that might not have been given that support otherwise. It's a little bit more, long-term startups. It takes some time for them to develop, and if they succeed, have a huge potential impact on the environment, for example. And our members are non-profit. They are often regionally owned, and if we count the numbers, there are about 5,000 companies in our members at the moment. And that's everything from the really small startups to the scale-ups and to the multinationals like Ericsson, Saab, Scania, ABB, and so on.
That is impressive. And are your incubator members specialized, focused on specific areas? Or?
Yes, absolutely. Some of them are. For example, life science. We have some really great world-class incubators in all of our incubators. Is of course world-class, but absolutely, life science is one specific area. And but then we also have some incubators that they are broad, but they have one angle, for example, for forestry or for food tech or technologies from the ocean or even space technologies. But most of the incubators, they are broad and work within all sectors, and they incubate the really great cases that has a huge potential. I would say one thing that all have in common is sustainability. Definitely.
And how are the incubators financed?
They are often financed by their owners, that are the regions or universities, municipalities, and so on. But then we also have the National Incubator Program called Incubator Excellence, where Vinnova is one of the key funders. We are 29 incubators at the moment in the Excellence Program. And they incubate. Since 2014, they have actually incubated 6,500 startups through that program.
Impressive. And do the startups have to pay anything to get the support from the incubators?
Most commonly, they pay something, a small fee, and that's like more an administrative fee. You could say they pay the rent. But mostly the owners of the incubators pays for the startups in the program. For example, Vinnova supports the incubators with funding so that they can get the right support to the startups when the startups need that kind of support. Like, for example, IP or technological support or so on.
And how many startups do we have in Sweden?
That's a really, really good question. As I said, we have incubated 6,500 startups in the National Incubator Program. We have, at the moment, in Ignite, that I will tell you more about in a little while, we have 2,500 B2B startups. And then we also have about, I would say about 5,500 startups, if you should look at Sweden just now.
And you were mentioning Ignite here, and you are also one of the founders and actually also the program manager of Ignite. What is Ignite?
Ignite is a national program created by and with the incubators and science parks in Sweden. And what we realized, we started Ignite 2017, and back then there were Sting, an incubator in Stockholm, LEAD, the incubator in Linköping, and Things, a co-working hub at the Royal Institute of Technology. We saw a pattern that our startups, our Swedish startups, they most often got their first customer abroad, and not even in Europe, but in the US, for example, or in Asia. And that was, of course, great. But the problem was then they got a second customer there and the third customer there, and then they got their big investments there, and then they moved. So they very rarely stayed to become companies here and to grow here. And one of the reasons behind this was the lack of customers in Sweden. So we said, what if we could gather a lot of customers for all of these startups so that the startups can meet these customers when they are ready for it? And we did that. And that is actually what Ignite is. So Ignite is a huge customer base for all of the Swedish startups. And so they can meet and they can try out their ideas, but of course they also get customers, and that's the main focus. And today we have been working with almost 900 startups, and we've been working with almost 300 large companies, both private and public sector, I would say. And we have arranged almost 5,000 B2B meetings, and each and one of them are needs-based.
Yeah, it's so impressive the work Ignite does. And Ignite is actually organizing the matchmaking that is going on as we speak, and it has been going on since early morning, and it will end quite late night, all these 4 days. How's it going?
It's going fantastic. It's a great experience, and we have a full team. Not located here, obviously, and we have actually been working with 270 startups for this matchmaking. So it's a fantastic lineup of great impact startups, and they are meeting with 78 large companies in almost 500 meetings during this day. And the good thing is, or the fun thing, our mission is that we know for a fact that 1 out of 6 of these startups will, in a couple of months, of course, actually close a deal with some of these large companies that they are meeting.
And that is amazing, and that's definitely one of the reasons why we work with this, right? I just have to give a shout out to the director for international collaborations at Ignite, Sasan Shaba, that is managing all these matchmaking during this day, and you know, 500 qualified, really high quality matchmaking meetings. These are crazy numbers, to be honest. So impressive. You were mentioning before the public organizations. Is there a demand from the public organizations?
Definitely. We've been working with the public sector now for 2 years, and it's fantastic because when the public sector is able to work with startups, the impact is huge, really. And what's interesting, I think, is also the public sector can choose, for example, sustainability over money. So they have a lot of power to actually be the first customer to all of these new solutions needed for the smarter city, for example. Absolutely. So, but there's still, you know, we've been working with maybe 10 municipalities and cities around Sweden. And now we're also working with some international. So there's still a lot of cities and public sector organizations that need to start doing this to innovate with startups. So we still need to build the capacity for it.
But you're spreading the word about it. I mean, 10 municipalities. We have about 300 in Sweden. So but we have started, and that's the most important thing, right?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, Stina, for sharing your insights and your background here at this Fireside Chat. Any way to contact you?
Of course. I have my colleagues in the chat, so please reach out to them, or you can just go to my LinkedIn, Stina Lantz, or even our website.
Thank you very much, Stina. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys, for listening.